Why I call myself the architect of ideas. I love the name Architect of Ideas. I love the title Architect of Ideas. And in reality, it was just some imagination of mine some years ago that is slowly becoming more of my reality. I once upon a time was playing around with Excel, and I was just coloring different numbers of cells in different colors, just like randomly highlighting things. And I noticed I liked what I had created. It was some sort of rectangle. It looked like it had an H in it, and it looked like it had an N in it, and or something. And I really liked it, and I thought, hey, this would be a cool logo. And then I thought, hey, well, I've got nothing to lose. Why don't I make up a company name using this logo that I just created, and why don't I give myself a cool imaginary title and just let it exist in the universe, and just for fun, just for laughs, just as a joke, like, ha ha ha, look at this. I ended up naming the company H-Architectures and Company, and for short, it's like Dashing Architectures, which is currently my book publishing company that I'm working towards building slowly, consistently, through time. But in that moment, I made up that name because it fit the logo I created on Excel that I really liked. And I liked the colors, and it just looked like it had an H in it, and it looks like it had a dash in it, and it looked like it had an N in it. So I just made up the name. And then I was like, I don't know what this company is, but at first I was like, it's a museum of me, museum of ideas and something, which, by the way, a museum of ideas does exist. It's run by my friend Shannon, and I am so glad that she has created that, because I'm so glad that that exists in the world. Oh, there's fireworks. That's lovely. That's really cool, actually. Anyway, so I don't know if you can hear the fireworks, but I can. So I made the logo, and then I made the name, and then I gave myself a title. And I was like, well, if I could be anything, absolutely anything, what's the title I would want? And, when I say absolutely anything, I mean that. I don't mean out of the list of jobs that already exists and titles that already exists, like manager, project manager, or executive, or director, or analyst, or marketer, or something else. Or like scientist, or dancer, or artist, or I'm like, yes, all of these exist, and I could just choose one of those. But somehow I just got head architect of ideas. That's what I want to be. I want to be the head architect of ideas. What does that mean? That means I'm good at coming up with ideas. And why did I think that fit me? Because I come up with so many ideas. Not all of them are great, but the point is that because I can come up with a bunch of different ideas, some of them inevitably are good and interesting to some extent, and some of them we can just throw out but still be like, oh, well, that was cool. But I would sit in my college classes and I would take notes, but also sometimes I would not. Sometimes I would doodle or draw, or because I was sitting there and I had to sit there and there was nowhere else to go, my brain would occasionally wander off into thinking about other things, and then suddenly I had an idea for something, and I'd have ideas for stories, and I have ideas for things I wanted to build, like designs for a library, which that we're gonna get to. And point is, through all of my notebooks and notes, there's lots of ideas. And I write a lot. And so in those notebooks as well, not just in my class notes, but in my regular notebooks and journals, there's lots of ideas too. And so head architect of ideas made sense to me. And it also made sense because what I wanted to do was share the ideas, because I have so many ideas that I can't do all of them. That some of them I just wish they would be done, and I don't care if someone who isn't me does it, because I'm not going to get to all of them. I'm genuinely not going to get to all of the ideas that I've ever had. And some of them are really, really cool, by my personal opinion. And I can share some of them, and then you can share your opinion as to whether you think they're cool or not. But that... yeah. So I have been going through some of my old notebooks lately, and I've been coming across these ideas. And I'm just like, some of this is just so cool and so funny. So I'm going to share one with you right now. But point is, that was the story of how I got the title Architect of Ideas. And so when I started making YouTube videos, some of them were about math, but I realized I didn't want to keep them to be only about math. So I just named the channel Architect of Ideas, because a good amount of these videos are going to be ideas about things. And I just want to share the ideas I have. And some of these that are ideas that I don't personally want to pursue, I am going to say, feel free to take them. Feel free to take them, and feel free to do them if you want to, if it sounds like interesting to you. So here's one that we're going to go with. This I found in a notebook from 3 years ago. And it was called The Idea, a Dissertation Against the Meaning of Grades. That was the idea. To have a transcript versus self-evaluation project. That, personally, my college experience was very rich, because I did a lot of things. I tried many different fields of study in classes, and I experienced a lot outside of classes through internships, study abroad, externships, clubs, projects, you name it. So I was like, I know the value that I got from college, and I know that grades cannot tell you anything about what I have learned, what I have been able to achieve or create. And that's where I got this idea, a dissertation against the meaning of grades. So I was like, okay, I make an Excel sheet, and I can have different charts and graphs, and I can organize all of my classes by category of which field of study it was in, and then just how many courses I took in each field and whatever, and how many of them I took abroad versus in the US, and I could have all this data. And in reality, what I was going to do is create this entire paper where the first thing you see is my transcript, which is what, I don't know, some applications ask for your transcript, right? Because they want to see what classes you've taken, and they want to see your grades. And my point is that the grades don't mean I learned anything. So I was going to go first show you my transcript. You would see all the classes I've taken, their names, and their grades. And it would be like, okay, what does that tell you about me? What have I learned? What can you say that you think that I know how to do or know about based on these classes? And then I would give you my self-evaluation of my college career, in which I would list each of these classes, and then I would label them kind of as things that I don't really have anything to show for, that I don't know if I learned anything from. This is the name of the class, and I can tell you right now, I don't remember that topic. I don't remember how to do that. If you ask me about it, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Just because I took the class doesn't mean I know it. And then I would give you the opposite of the things that I have something to show for, and classes that I still impact me today, lessons I still remember. And so I would go through each of these classes and I would tell you. So like for example, let's say the class Intermediate Spanish. If I just told you I took the class Intermediate Spanish, I got an A. What does that tell you? Maybe I know Spanish, and the thing is maybe I don't. Maybe I just passed it. But no, this class is on my list of things I have something to show for, things that really impacted me. Because why? Here's the story. The grade and the name of the class versus the story and the significance. The story and the significance is I took Intermediate Spanish in Argentina. I got Spanish-speaking skills, like the ability to understand and to reply. And I got a new love for this person named Maria Elena Walsh, who is an Argentine writer, and she wrote some great kids songs too. And I wrote like this whole book of stories in Spanish. The beginning ones are not as great because I was practicing, and the further, the later ones are much, much better, but I have a whole actual Spanish book of stories to show for that class, as well as a photo collage of the places I went and the things that we did and how we learned about the Argentinian culture. And I got to live with a host family there. So, it wasn't just like separated from Argentina. I was in Argentina living, with Argentinians. And it was really cool. And I have a video of a poem to show for it. It's on my YouTube channel. I wrote a poem in Spanish and I made a video of the poem. So we take the name Intermediate Spanish and the grade, whatever, versus look at the story. Look at the significance this class had. I have multiple things to show for it. I have actual skills I can still call upon to show for this class. And then think about the name of the class, Family, Schools, and Child Development. The name of the class versus the story and the significance. Family, Schools, and Child Development. I took that class. I got a good grade in that class. Okay. The story and the significance of this class is that I was living in London when I took that class. I did take it online, but I was living in London during the time because it was part of a study abroad. And what do I have to show for that class? I have a research paper to show for that class that synthesizes the banned books list and like the percentages and the statistics about banned books with the current state of the American education system that I personally think was freaking cool. And I never finished it because I wrote so many pages that I just submitted it not fully finished because there was so much more to write. And my professor was like, this is already more than I wanted and this is great. So I have a research paper to show for that. And I got an interest in Montessori schools and sort of understanding, what did I write here? I don't know what I wrote over here. Point is, I have a research paper to show, and I got an interest in Montessori schools that I was going to actually consider pursuing more to see if I wanted to get trained in that as a Montessori teacher or not. So like I had a whole interest sparked in me, and I got a lot of research out of it, and I learned about all different education, like alternative education that I didn't know existed before. Besides just the regular compulsory schooling that we have, like there's like outdoor schools, there's like unschooling movement, there's just so many different things that I didn't realize. And it actually sparked or inspired my first half. Okay, how do I explain this? I had to write an honors thesis for my college, in order to graduate because I was in the honors program. And my entire senior year was spent for this honors thesis. However, technically, only half of the year was spent on my actual honors thesis, and half of the year was spent on a different honors thesis. The first half of the year was spent starting this honors thesis that was going to be about unschooling and environmental schools, like schools in nature schools, and Montessori, more of that situation type. It was going to be a research paper / thesis, whatever. I spent half of the year on that, and it was sparked by this class. The reason I say half of the year is because I did change my mind halfway through the year and found something else I wanted to do a lot more, which was math and tango. And, that's just another class example. And so I ended up, writing my actual honors thesis in the second half of the year, and it was completely different from the first half. But point is, I have something to show for this class, which was, again, like a spark and inspired something in me, and I have a research paper for it, right? And so it's interesting, right? And like conservation biology, take that class. There's the name. What's the story and the significance of it? Is that I was in Denmark when I took it. That one was online, but I was in Denmark and it was taught from Costa Rica. And what I have to show for it is a PDF in one page explaining why I'm not worried about climate change anymore. It managed to give me hope. This is a class that managed to give me hope about the world. Now imagine that. Imagine that. Now, take a different class. For example, World Regional Geography. I got no clue what that was or what we did. I could not tell you a thing. I have no idea what happened in that class. Or take, like, let's see, General Physics 1, General Physics 2. I don't really remember what happened there either. I know my professor was really nice, but what do I have to show for that class? I don't have anything I can show you. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head what topics we were learning there. I just couldn't. Then, let's see. What's another class that we could say, that we could talk about? Oh, yeah. My other point was going to be, so like we can list all my classes, and then if we list all the things that are not classes that I took, so all the things I did in college that are not classes that you're not going to see on my transcript, but that have so much meaning and value and significance. Like, my 3-week environmental science fieldwork trip to Hawaii, externship. It's not a class. You're not going to see it anywhere in my transcript. But what did I learn there? I learned about invasive species, and I learned about building a garden and like designing a garden for the specific pollinators. Like we were looking for specific butterflies that we wanted to attract. So like we were researching which plants we needed in order to attract these butterflies, and then we actually designed the garden, and we, shoveled the dirt and we planted the plants, and we, looked at how far away each plant needed to be from itself. And then also things like, rainwater and like the direction of how the water would flow on this hill and how it would reach the plants or not. Or just, I learned a lot. And also I learned a lot about group trips and time management, and just point is that I don't need to go through all of these that I have as my examples, but the point is that there's a lot of things that are just class names that sound really, really cool. Like a bunch of my physics classes, I probably can't remember what I actually did in them. Like waves in modern physics, I'm sorry, I don't know what we did. I don't know what happened in there, and I don't have anything to show for it either. There is one class though that I could have had something to show for if I realized how important it was, but I didn't, it was called Calculus Computer Lab, and it was all about MATLAB. And in the moment, I thought that MATLAB was just something they wanted us to do for the sake of having a mathematics like laboratory, because all the physics classes had labs, most of the math ones didn't, but then they created this one, which was like paired with, I don't know, like analytical geometry or calculus, something like that. And so essentially I thought it was just for the sake, like just because they wanted us to like, you know, go through these specific set problems and solve them and whatever. And so I did, and I was pretty okay at it, and it turned out fine. I was understanding some of it, but then I just completely forgot it because I thought it was just something they wanted us to do. No. Now I'm here after having gotten my degree in math, again being curious about math and realizing that, damn, whoops, maybe I shouldn't say that, that you can use MATLAB for really cool, like, actual math research and for, you know, actually exploring math, not just for answering the questions that you were assigned to answer. And I really wish at this point that I didn't just forget that I, you know, kept using it, and like maybe even now would still understand how to do that. And maybe I still want to get back to that, or to like a similar program to be visualizing math online, using a computer more rather than just paper and pen and, you know, drawing things out. But, you know, that's still valid to a certain extent, until you get to the more complicated things. And, you know, maybe I don't need to get to the more complicated things, but maybe I do. Maybe I want to. And it would be really cool. So I can't say I have something to show for that class at the moment, but this is one of the classes where I wish I did. I wish I actually remembered and understood it. And then I think I had an applied math class. So I could tell you some things from linear algebra, from cryptology, from my introduction to proofs. Love that class. Like, the things I can still tell you. But then, like, probability, less so. Statistics, less so. But that's because I think I just generally don't love statistics as much as other classes. So maybe I just don't remember it as well. And abstract algebra was hard. So I can't say I have something to show for these classes, right? Like, some of them I remember some things, and like cryptology I remember to some extent, and like, it's all cool. But then like chemistry, like general chemistry 1 lab, I don't have something to show for this. I mean, technically I could probably find the labs somewhere, but is it something I'm proud of? Is it something I understand? Or was I mostly, we were just doing experiments that lots of people have already done, where we were supposed to get results that were already planned out beforehand, and we just had to explain them and make up things about, like, oh, it would have been better if I did this, or it would have been more accurate if I didn't mix this up, or whatever. But like, you know, it was like, do I really have something significant to show for that? No, you know? So anyway, you definitely get the point, and I'm definitely going to stop listing things, and that is just one example of an idea, and that my college career particularly lends itself really well to this project, a dissertation against the meaning of grades, because I have gotten good grades in some classes that I couldn't tell you a thing about anymore, and I have gotten I have done things that you can't see at all in my transcript that are super meaningful. like from study abroad to internships and all that stuff, and that I could show you a lot of things for, that I could show you projects I completed for. I have one class, it's called Physics for Everyone, and that name is just, okay, physics for everyone, you know? That's just a general physics course. Like, what could you know from that? Like, it doesn't, maybe if I told you I took that class and you saw that on my transcript, you wouldn't be impressed. But what if I told you I designed a whole book as a result of that class, which was called Welcome Curiosity? And it is a book that invites you to be curious about physics. It doesn't specifically tell you to like learn specific things. It doesn't teach you a whole bunch of information, but it asks you a whole bunch of questions for you to ask yourself to get curious about physics. And it was based on the things I learned in the class about waves and light and particles. And we learned other things. I just chose that topic for designing the book because I had an awesome physics teacher in that class that understood that art is combined with science, that we're not trying to separate these things. Like a bunch of my physics a bunch of my physics classes, we didn't do any art, you know? It's like, oh no, this is just science. That's all this is. But this professor brought art into this physics class, and he let our final project be, you can do whatever you want as long as you demonstrate to me that you've learned something in this class, as long as you demonstrate to me what you've learned. And I chose to design a book that I later learned how to self-publish, so I self-published it. So, you know, like the name of the class versus the significance. We have a name of the class that doesn't mean so much, but then I tell you the significance, which you're not going to see at all in the transcript, and it's like, whoa, you know? And my whole point is this, like, what do grades mean? Nothing. Like, I don't, like, how do we still do this? Like, how do we still judge people based on grades of, like, some people can have such great grades in something and have understood nothing from the class. Maybe they're just good at playing the game, which I was good at playing the game, but I was also good at getting, you know, significant value from the game. But I was also good at playing the game of getting, you know, adequate and good grades. You know, I was good at that, and some people just aren't, but that doesn't mean there's anything bad against them. You know, it doesn't mean anything about them. And some people who genuinely learned a lot maybe just weren't good at getting good grades, so they didn't get good grades. So, yeah. Point is, I just think that would be a cool art piece. If I ever don't have a project that I want to work on in particular, because I have a few projects I'm focused on right now, and if I ever want another one, maybe I'll go and do that one, because my college career does lend itself pretty well to that. But yeah, that was just one of the ideas. I'll share other ones maybe in other videos so that we don't make these too long. Cool. Thanks. See ya. Bye.